Hello, excuse me. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Old Man Rambles. Now, there's been something going on in the public discourse for several days now. And at first, I wasn't going to say anything. Didn't feel it was my place. And then, as things started to escalate, you know, I felt the need to want to say something. I wanted to say something. But as I was educating myself, making sure I had my talking points correct, um, I was actually I hadn't written a script, but I was actually taking notes, writing things down because then I remember them better when I write them down. And I actually had a plan to set up a little table here with my, flip up my laptop out of sight of the camera so I could look at my notes to try and actually do something coherent. But the more I watched the discourse online evolve or devolve, is a better description of it, I became disillusioned, I guess is the best way to put it. Because the people who agree with my stance, I don't need to convince. They're going to come in and agree with me anyway. The people who disagree with me are so entrenched in their views that nothing I say would penetrate it. No matter how many facts I could put up there explaining and proving my point, they would just ignore it. They would tell me I was wrong, that I was lying. And I've mentioned this type of thing before. So I just kind of petered out and decided that, I put a lot of work into it, like I said, I was researching things for a couple of days, watching YouTube videos, reading news articles, copying things down and stuff. And I wanted so much to be, accurate and concise to make sure my talking points were as bulletproof as I could make them, until I finally realized no matter how bulletproof they were, people would just ignore it. People who would disagree with me, the people I most want to hammer these bullet points home to, just don't care. The earth is flat. And you could launch these people into space and they'd still say the earth is flat. So I've decided not to spend as much time addressing this as I had intended. I do have one thing I want to say. This person died on camera. It is unimaginable what this person's family had to go through to witness their loved one have their life taken. And it is unimaginably cruel that people would then use their platform to go online and say, I don't care that he's dead. He's no hero. He's a scumbag. He does not deserve to be celebrated. I can't imagine what, that would do to this person's family. I am speaking, of course, of George Floyd. George Floyd was no saint, he had a troubled life, researching him. He had a promising start. He was a decent student. He was, active in athletics. He went to college. His life really didn't start to take a downturn until he left college. He got arrested a couple times, went to jail. But when he got out of jail, he did try to start to turn his life around. He truly struggled to try to hold a job. He struggled with addiction. He struggled in a lot of ways. He struggled hard to turn his life around. He got involved in outreach programs to help youth not go down the path he did. He was active in his church. He has all the elements of a decent person who made some wrong choices. And, no matter how hard he struggled to make his life better and failed at it. That doesn't make him a bad person, doesn't make him a saint. but he was unjustly killed. You know, he did not deserve his fate. And the person who said those cruel things about him, who derided him using his own platform to badmouth him and deride him to the general public of the United States, that was Charlie Kirk. Good hunting.